Ground control to Major Tom. Ground control to Major Tom. Take your protein pills and put your...
Wow, we're kicking off everything, ladies and gentlemen, with a bit of nostalgic from the good old David Bowie. And what a proper song to kick off this video with. Holy smokes. So, welcome back. It's been a while. And the reason why it's been a while is things are going nuts. I am super excited about like the viewers, comments that we're getting, messages that we're getting. We've got a bunch of very cool things lined up for all of you coming very soon. So it's literally taking off, like Mr. Bowie is saying. It's a rocket ship lifting off, and I couldn't be more excited and happy about that. As always, if you find value, if you like what you're seeing, don't forget to show a bit of love, show a bit of appreciation. I appreciate you every time you tune in and have a look at my videos. Is it 5 minutes you're watching? Is it 10 minutes? If it's 15 minutes, if it's the whole thing, doesn't matter. I appreciate you, and I just wanted to say that right off the bat. And so don't forget, a bit of loving, a bit of liking, a bit of comment, a bit of sharing, and of course, click subscribe so you can make sure that you get the notification on the next videos that are coming, because we have got an amazing lineup in terms of what's coming, what is still to come. But this time, oh boy, do we have something special. And to be honest, I've been a bit nervous making this video. Let me just, there is the favorite sound of mine. I've been a bit nervous on this one because I've got a bunch of friends that really likes this band, and I know that they're gonna watch it, so I hope I'm not gonna disappoint them. Which is also the reason why I thought a bit of nostalgic with music in the beginning was kind of like a good way of kicking it all off. And so we're gonna start a bit different this time around, because this time we're starting already in 1971. 1971 is the year that we're looking at right now. And we're actually looking at August 2nd of August, 1971. And with that, we're looking at nothing less than the Apollo Mission 15. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are heading to space this time around. And how cool is that? Now, this mission was, you could say from a like, we've been to the moon already. It's kind of like, hey, like whatever, it's not that unique. But from this company's perspective, Bulova, it is literally one of those signature moments again where it's just, well, that's what we've done all our history. And this is the thing that's incredible, absolutely incredible, because it's a bit of, the timing is right. And it's funny when you say that, when it's about watches, right? The timing was right. So here's the story, or the background of it. So we're off to space, right? And that, I mean, to begin with, that's pretty cool, right? But what happens is, so the mission commander, Commander David Scott, which is very celebrated astronaut, and you know, as good as they come, right? Already has done a couple of missions, and at that time NASA, I don't know if they still do it, but like, I have to admit my knowledge on NASA and what they do and don't do is a bit outdated. But NASA had they've made an agreement with none other than Omega to provide all of the timepieces for the mission, right? So at that time, 71, Omega was the official timekeeping, date keeping, the watch company that was actually delivering, you know, the pieces for astronauts out of space, still look at what time it is. And one of the things that's very interesting was, and I mentioned that on a previous video, is that it's the point where we start to run the 24 hour scale on watches that really, really became very, very important with astronauts, because when you're out of space, you really don't know if you are, is it 12 o'clock morning? Is it 12 o'clock, midnight? Is it AM, PM? And so I'm coming from a 24-hour system. So like I've always been used to that, but like, go back in history, it's not always the same thing. But for astronauts, they need the 24-hour scale because they need to be able to see, are we actually talking midnight or midday? And so that's one of the things that's go to space and then you figure these things out, right? But what happened was, on one of the missions, Commander Scott already started complaining about the fact that there was something not sitting perfect on his Omega, and like he got it fixed or changed or what have you. And when he's about to leave on the moon, boop, open the door, climb down the stairs, something happens and the bezel breaks. Luckily for him, I don't know if it was an advertising act or what was it. And we'll get back to why I don't know if it was or wasn't. It's purely speculation. But what he does is, out of his pocket, he pulls his own personal watch that just happens to be developed, one of a kind, specifically for him, for a moon landing and the atmospheric compression, like the whole shebang, and it just fits perfect. Pops it on, smiles for the camera, bing bong, wears the watch, and it takes off like there's no tomorrow. Now, the watch, of course, is the Bulova that we're talking about this time around. An absolutely amazing history, legacy, and story behind the whole thing. And it is exciting. It is exciting. But so 1971 really marks the spot or the point of Bulova coming back to mainstream and all of a sudden just being out there, right? Remember, we've had issues with the quartz time. We've had issues with, we're just about to move into this whole industry of like Swiss made versus Japanese made, mechanics, battery versus self-wind, all of these different things. We've covered that in a bunch of other videos. But net of the whole situation is at around the 70s mark, right? That's when the Japanese quartz comes up and it really becomes a massive destroyer of the good old-fashioned wind and self-wind mechanics, right? And then a lot of companies struggles for a long time with that. However, for Bulova, this is like the renaissance for them. This is like the rebirth of a company. Bang, right there. And what later happens is that specific model that he was wearing, Commander Scott, is the one that we're gonna review today. It's not the actual one. I can tell you that. Of course, it's not the actual one. The actual one was sold on an auction because it's a privately held watch. So when it's a privately held versus NASA owning it, you are actually allowed to sell those things because it's your own. And so that watch got eventually auctioned off and it hit, I think it was 1.5 million, maybe more dollars for a watch. Now you can say Richard Mille, you can say Patek, you can say all of these nowadays, but this is a watch that was made in 1971 that sold off for more than $1.5 million. Why? And by the way, there was a massive amount wear of tear of it. I don't know if it came originally in box and paper, whatever. But this was the one that he was wearing out of space. Bam! Worth a bucket load of money. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely cool. Now, 1971, very pivoted moment for the company. Incredible achievement. And it kind of also feels like they've been working towards this specific incident of, hey, by the way, Omega didn't work, so I'll wear my own one that just happens to be prepared by the best in the industry, or some of the best in the industry, that can just handle the pressure the conditions, the this, the that. Does it smell of a conspiracy theory? I think it does. And that there is, by the way, one thing that sets, in my opinion, Bulova absolutely apart from so many other companies. Because if you go back and you look at the history of the company, and if you look at the mastermind behind all of it, right? So go back to the early beginning, the beginning of the company. We're looking at the US starting to prosper a lot. We're looking at US starting to grow. You have all of these different things with railroads and what have you. We've talked about that in a couple of other videos, where timekeeping becomes such a big phenomenon there because of trains leaving or having to leave on time, becoming logistics, moving massive amount of cargo and stuff like that around. So time is of essence here. 1875. So close to 100 years earlier, Joseph Bulova moved to the US. So very interesting here. What many people don't know, and this is the reason why I'm also excited about this, is that he actually was an immigrant. That's not the interesting part. Like immigrants have done a lot of amazing things. That's not at all the point. But he's actually from what is referred to as the Bohemian area. And so the Bohemian area is, I would say, around 50 kilometers from where I'm sitting currently. So like, throw it and you hit it. It's like literally next door from where I'm sitting. And so I honestly, when I started researching that, I did not know that. And I actually had to look up the exact place of his birth and also where he grew up. And it is literally 55 kilometers from here. Now, what that is in miles, I wouldn't know, but it's pretty close. It's actually really, really close. And so for the Bohemian area that he came from, he then decided to, okay, I'm gonna move to the US, live the American dream. I don't think it was called the American dream at that time. Maybe it was, who cares? But he went there and he was like, okay, so I've got this crazy wild idea, Why don't I do a shop that sells watches? Once again, why don't I do a shop that sells watches? And so what happened was that after he immigrates to the US, gets some education, studies, starts to learn tricks of the trades and what have you, how things are done in the US, he actually incorporates the company as the Bulova Watch Company in around 1923 already. Okay, so 1923, it's up and running. And now, one of the things that's really, really cool is that up until that point, a bunch of things has happened. So already 1912, so arrived in 1875, incorporated 1923, so obviously quite a long time, but in between he's everything but standing still. So 1912, right, he sets up plant in Switzerland. And here's one of the things which is really, really fascinating is at that time, or approximately the same time, is when Ford and I think it's the Model T starts to be an assembly line, right? So before it was kind of like one, like a whole team doing everything and nothing. And then Henry Ford comes with the assembly line strategy in the US that you only do this and you become a subject matter expert on that part of the process. And that means that we can churn out much more product. And so one of the things that's incredibly fascinating was that Bulova was really groundbreaking in terms of how he was looking at setting up an assembly line for watches himself in Switzerland, Swiss made, bang, bang. But And we're talking about precision. We're talking about, oh my God, we're sitting and doing, yeah, fine, fantastic. Next one. And so what he was able to do really, really early on was actually to generate massive volumes, incredible amount of volumes because of that style of working. And so that really was one of the things where I don't want to say he was the only one that did it or the first one to did it. He definitely was a significant player that established the whole assembly line mechanism for watches, right? And so again, we can always go back and argue about like who was the first, like what came first, the egg or the chicken. That's not what I'm here to do. But it is truly amazing that a watch that many people have never heard about actually has done such an amazing piece of work for the industry, and we take it for granted nowadays. Can you imagine any company now that does not work on an assembly line basis, but they do everything only one piece at a time? The difference in terms of price, not necessarily quality, but quality as well, but price and time, unbelievable. So that really was something where it pioneered the way of many companies to follow and say, well, if he's doing it, well, why can't we do it? And we do it as well. And then, one leads to another. And then all of a sudden what you have is innovation. And so for me, absolutely incredible with that way of working. Now, there's one of the things that's really, really interesting. And so Joseph Bulova himself was a fanatic. Like he was a fanatic, but not any kind of fanatic. He was a horologist or horology fanatic. He was obsessed with anything that had to do with time, measurement, and accuracy. And so one of the things that he did was, this is pretty funny. So he set up an observatorium on a skyscraper in New York City because he wanted to measure how month, moons, and all of these things are influencing time so he can get it down to a T. So he can learn from these things and implement that into his business. Incredible. I mean, like the guy was like extraordinary in his way of thinking. And by the way, that's kind of like one of the things that you see and you start to understand once you're starting to look at the people behind the brand, behind the company, where you really start to see that like there was something like, the wheels were turning in their head on a completely different level. And so that's one of the things that he does, which is just truly and utterly amazing. After that, one of the things that he comes up with, and this was just, this is one of the things I'm still trying to figure out, like how cool it is. And I have difficulties actually fully grasping just how cool it is of what they did is so he came up with this innovation and invention, which is like, again, you can invent something, but you could also just like innovate something that later is going to be like groundbreaking. Okay, why not? And so basically that's what he did. And so what he came up with was something that's called Accutron. And Accutron it's a tuning fork, okay? It's like in music when you have it and you go bing, that sound is tuning sound. That means that it does the vibration, but the sound remains a special clarity or clear sound, and then you can tune instruments accordingly. Right? That's the old-fashioned way of doing it. Now, one of the things that he was able to do with that, and this is the thing that just blows my mind, is because of that high-pitched voice that then interacts with the parts of the watch, he was actually, let me just check again, so I'm not lying to you. 1948, 1960, on and on and on. So with the tuning, the Accutron, with the tuning fork, were able to do plus minus 2 seconds of accuracy a day. And that's not yesterday that we did that, right? That's like, again, like a good part of years ago, right? So if it's 1940s, 1950s, it's pretty damn impressive again, right? So from there on, it just goes on and on and on. Now, there is a couple of other things. So remember I said that conspiracy theories and all of these different things. One of the things that Bulova was incredibly smart at was advertisement. Oh yes, advertisement and marketing. What everybody else couldn't figure out, he figured out right from the beginning. And so it was really, really interesting. And this is a funny story again. I didn't know this. I really didn't know this, and I find it incredible. So in 1923, what he starts to do is he starts to look at broadcasting, right? Broadcasting, radios, and in 1923, he actually comes up with this, what is it, slogan? No, motto? I don't know. It's like catchphrase. And it is, at the tone, it's 8 o'clock Bulova watch time. So like you get bing bong 8 o'clock and it's Bulova time. Like how insane is that? Like, so it might not sound sophisticated, it might sound actually pretty ridiculous, but that's 1926. Like that's like 1926. We're still sitting, family gathered around the radio and listen to a speaker, ladies and gentlemen, trying to explain everything through the radio. And here you have somebody that comes in and says that at the tone of the ring, the clock, whatever, ding dong, right? It is 8 o'clock. Like, we use that nowadays when you're counting down for newspapers. 8 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen, the news is on. Hey, my name is Martin Nielsen, and today's news we still use it till today. You have multiple countries, mine including the one that I'm living in as well, is you are literally having time clocking down until 8 o'clock, and 8 o'clock is typically when the news is on. Like, and nobody, myself included, never thought about why is it 8 o'clock? And now it's kind of like, well, there's something that happened in 1926. Great, why not? How cool and impressive is that? Now, one of the other things that was really, really cool about Bulova was that he really understood that if I place my products in an area where everybody needs to look at it, there's a high probability I'm gonna sell a lot more. What did he do? If you've ever been to Madison Square Garden or any of the big indoor stadiums, ice hockey stadiums, basketball stadiums, whatever stadiums, you have in the center these big, now it used to be like big squares, right? Where you have the time, you have got the scoreboard and all of these things. Now go back like 100 years almost. Bulova was the first one to do that. He was the first one, his company was the first one to have a square with 4 watches on one on each side. That was him coming up with that. Now, the system and the idea of time, scoreboard, and all of these things still exist today. Now it's electronical, it's digital, but it still exists today. The idea came from Bulova because you can display your watch. Oh, by the way, what about if you're looking at tennis or you're looking at anything else? Look at how we're displaying the watches, the clock, and it is the sponsor of it. It can be anything from Omega, Rolex, Tag Heuer, Festina, whatever. It doesn't matter. Where is that coming from? The idea from this genius, this marketing genius. So on one hand side, he's incredibly passionate about horology. On the other hand side, he's a marketing genius. Show your brand and your product everywhere and people will buy. And that's exactly what they did. This is incredible. And you know what? He did it free of charge. He was the one that actually went out and said, hey, listen, I'm going to do this for you so you can tell the time. Your players can do all of these different things. Ding dong. There you go. Like amazing, 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 amazing. Now, what he started doing as well was, and this is the reason why, Bulova has shaped not only the history of watches or impacted the history of watches, but also advertisement, because televised, or the first televised advertisement, right? First televised advertisement dated back to July 1st, 1941, of commercial advertisement in the US, right? It was a commercial paid by Bulova. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Like, this is mind-blowing for me. Like, so this is like somebody that has helped shape the industry of marketing as well. A watch company. Now, that is pretty significant. If you don't think that's significant, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how I can impress you any further then. But anyways, I'll try. I'm not giving up just yet. So, Bulova, So far, so good. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant company. Now, what happens is, obviously, Second World War starts, because we're moving on in time. Second World War starts, and what happens is then the family at that time, so chairman of the board, Arden Bulova, related, sets up the school in Switzerland that is helping disabled people. So like people that was veterans from Second World War and all of these things. So already there, you start to see as well that they're working on what we nowadays call corporate social responsibility, helping out, doing good, and all of these different things. Unfortunately, later on in the 70s, I think it was, or in the 70s, no, 90s, 1992, 1993. I'm terrible with time, by the way. Not time, years, by the way. Sorry. So 1993, they unfortunately closed that because of, well, generally speaking, there's no wars. The whole area of disabilities and people that needs or has an interest in education, learning these different things, stop, right? So close it. For me, a bit of a, a bittersweet symphony, if you will, because I really, really thought that was a cool thing that they did there. And so, again, time to move on to the next one. 1971 comes. We mentioned that already. The moon, cool. The quartz movement happens, right? And that's one of the things that I was mentioning in the beginning. Quartz movement are happening. Quartz is taking over the world. It's by far the most dominant player, right? All of a sudden you can get like the quartz. Oh my God, you've got all of these new different things. And one of the things that's really, really interesting is that, again, Bulova was not looking at fighting the trend, right? It's not trying to swim upstream, but instead saying, well, how can I leverage that? And how can I leverage that to my own benefit or to our benefit, give our customer great experience with our tools and all of these things. And so what happened was that they fully embraced the quartz movement and said, this is actually pretty cool. We didn't see that coming, or maybe we did. We didn't do much with it, but now we're embracing it. And they started doing watches with LED lights and what have you, around the 1970s, mid 70s, late 70s. And so again, just, like we're looking at innovation, or something comes that plays into our hands on innovation, leverage it fully, take it to the next level. And here is where it becomes really, really interesting. Did you know that the curved watches that follows your wrist, so you might have seen them, they're becoming very fashionable now again, is that they're not fixed on a straight bottom, but they're curving so they fit your wrist a bit better. Personally, I'm not a big fan of them. That's my own opinion, but there are some of them that are looking really, really cool. Now, who do you think pioneered that? Boulevard did. They were the first one to really start with the curved design of the plate, right? That fits your wrist even more, and for that, apparently, should give you extra comfort. I have to admit, I don't buy into the extra comfort. I like the good old-fashioned straight look on my wrist. I don't know curved, really. Right? It's enough that I have television that are curved and, no. I am old-fashioned with that. But I have to give them credit for that is a cool thing to come up with as well. So again, really, really amazing things that they've been doing. And so one of the things, and I wanted to read this because I really, really think that this is one of the things that maybe is, it all boils down to this, right? So let me read one of the things that's actually written on, that if you go and search on the archives of Bulova and all of these things, with an unwavering drive for perfection, efficiency, and precision, quality craftsmanship became the foundation upon which Joseph Bulova built his brand. But what fueled the brand's continually progress was its spirit of invention, pursuing innovation and technology both within the timepiece industry and beyond. Bang! There you have it. Absolutely spot on. Because we already mentioned the whole aspect of how they pioneered the use and the usage of marketing. We looked at how they were using billboards to display, really, really smart. We're talking about the tuning key as well, which went on and did a lot of other really, really, really cool stuff within not only mechanical, but also digital or analog. We've looked at some of the things that they've been doing with curved and all of these things. And so, yeah, it was a company and is potentially a company that still strives for making an impact, not only with watches, but far beyond that as well. That there, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty significant. I wouldn't want to say it's a bold statement because I think that they live up to it more or less. More or less. I am not so much into every line of watches that they have or lineups that they have that I can say they are 100% hitting the mark every time. I wouldn't know that. But studying and looking through what they have done so far and some of the signature pieces that they've made so far, yeah, they're hitting the mark pretty well. Will they continue to hit it? That's the question. Because here is one of the things that unfortunately, in my opinion, I am 100% aware of the fact that this is my own subjective opinion, but this is what I've seen with other companies. In 2008, Bulova got sold or got bought. They got bought by no other than Citizens Group. Citizens Group is, yes, the big beast. Now, what has happened since 2008 up until now is a bunch of really, really cool things. A lot of great things. And I think that there is an opportunity here for Bulova to continue to innovate and continue to add value to the industry. I firmly believe that. And also because Citizens has a very, very smart business model, which is we buy the bloody company, but you run it the way you want to run it. We're not going to tell you how to run your company, but you got to make a profit. If you don't make a profit, we will then start to tell you what to do. So besides that, you are free to do whatever you want, my friend. And so the capital injection that the company got through Citizens and the access to knowledge, know-how, and expertise throughout the group is unmatched. It's unrivaled. I mean, Citizen is a monster. Seiko is another monster as well, right? But Citizens, holy moly, that is big. Look up Citizen, look up what brands they are owning. You would not believe that half of them are owned by Citizens. I guarantee you. But there's also a risk. And the risk is you become more true to profit, less true to innovation. And that is not only true for watches. This is true for everything. The minute you hit the agenda of capitalism, it is lowering your cost, increasing your profit margins at any cost because shareholders need their money back. That is the risk that you're running. Anybody will know that once in a while you have to spend money to make money, and especially in a competitive environment like watches is, the watch industry is. And for you to come with the next big thing, when I'm talking about smartwatches, I'm talking about good old-fashioned watches. For you to come with the next big thing, you do need to spend money on research and development. You do need to start to do designs, and you will have flaws and you will have failure. You'll have all of these things, and it's a lengthy process and it's an expensive process. And so time will tell if Bulova is lining up something new, something fresh, and something unique, or it is just gonna milk its cash cows already. And in which case it will then start to fade away and become obsolete. That there is my fear, because you have seen it with other companies. One of the other companies is a company I'm gonna review in a couple of videos from now, and we've seen it with other companies. We've seen it that we are squeezing the profit margins to the maximum, and by the way, it becomes a version 1.1, 1.2. It doesn't become anything significant. It doesn't become anything unique. Everything looks the same, tastes the same, feel the same. And honestly, if you're true to innovation, if you're true to pushing the boundaries of what is possible within the industry, that's what you can't think about all the time. Am I making a profit here and now? How am I going to get money that is going to get my shareholders to leave me alone? That, unfortunately, is one of the big problems that they're up against. And that is where I start to be a bit worried about what's going to happen next for Bulova. However, and this is a disclaimer that I promised to make to an acquaintance of mine after discussing about Bulova, talking about the Lunar pilot, is I wrote it off, okay? I bought it, I looked at the pictures, I bought it, and I thought to myself, it's a good looking watch. It's a good looking piece. I got it, opened the box, and I was incredibly disappointed. I really, really didn't like it. I thought to myself, like, what have I done? Like, well, take my money, throw it out the window. And my disclaimer is official, and my honesty is obviously real. And as I'm a very authentic person, you can see that when I speak, my excitement shines out. I made a mistake. I absolutely made a mistake, because I made the rookie mistake of looking at it as what it is right now, not what you can make it. Let me explain. And now we get into the unboxing of the Lunar. Now, box, absolutely from the outside, nothing. But then you get this bad boy here. And kind of like already at this point, I'm starting to get my expectations up, because the box is absolutely beautiful. It is incredible. And by the way, Bulova, thank you for this little instrument here. It is, the small little thing that you use to pull out the when you're changing the straps. I love it. It is super, super good quality. And I have to admit, I've had a couple of these, broke them all. This one is by far the best. And again, I mean, this is just like one of those small little things that just makes me so happy and so excited. Box, absolutely beautiful. Sorry about shaking the video. Box, absolutely beautiful. You open it, and so here's where I went wrong. Okay, my watch, when I got it, right, when I got it and I opened it, was strapped with this piece of junk. This piece of junk here was on my watch, and I cannot tell you how much I hate this. It is absolutely and utterly not me. I put it on. You could, I mean, it's not bad looking, right? It's great quality. I just hate the design. Absolutely hate the design. I think it's absolutely horrendous. But that's my opinion. And I looked at it and I went like, oh my God, what have I bought? And now here's the thing where I made a mistake, is that watch comes with two straps. It comes with this nonsense, and it comes with the one that is dedicated to what is called DOM, right? DOM is date of mission. And DOM, it says 08021971. So date of mission, August 2nd, 1971. That's what you have right there, my friend. That's the date of mission. Now, I really thought to myself, like, this is, by the way, look at like the nice indexing that you have here. It's absolutely brilliant. I thought to myself, this here looks really ugly. But that there looks incredibly cool. And so I left it, and this is how dumb I am. I'm not hiding it. You're not going to get me to hide it, because like whatever, I always want to be honest with you. I was this dumb that I had this rim on it, this bracelet on it for like a month. And every time I saw it, I was like, that is ugly. That is such an ugly piece. It's incredibly ugly. And I realized it's because I absolutely hate this one here. It's so ugly in my mind that I couldn't see the rest of it. And it goes with this one. You can't see the forest because of trees. In my eyes, I couldn't see the watch because of the strap. How ridiculous is it? And I know that. At one point, I was like, okay, I am going to go and change the strap on it. Okay, I'm gonna put the strap down, and if I could burn it, I most probably would, but hey, you never know if you're gonna sell it one day or like whatever, so rather not. And I put on the different strap, and I absolutely love it. It is so dumb. A month I had it parked because I thought, what an ugly piece. Changed the strap, absolutely fell in love with it. Incredible speed. I put it on and I went like, no, this is cool. This is definitely cool. And so, you know what? Whatever. I'm happy that I changed it because I still have it. I was thinking, I'm gonna sell it because I'm never gonna wear it. And now when I have it, I absolutely enjoy it. It is a pleasure. Not only, and by the way, just look at it. Look at that. Look at all of that. Look at the crown as well. You've got the quartz. You got basically you've got everything. Now I could start to write out or read out some of the specific. I have them somewhere because they're pretty expensive. They're pretty impressive, the specs, right? So you've got crystal sapphire. You've got high performance quartz. You've got water resistance. You've got this. You've got that. You've got, let me just check, what else you have. So you have, that is using 262 kilohertz accuracy, the frequency accuracy. So that is down to plus minus literally nothing. You've got anti-reflective glass. You've got tachometer. You've got calendar. You've got it in 316L surgery graded stainless steel, silver tone, black tone, or black dial. You've got straps, what I told you about, leather, and the other one. And it's just absolutely brilliant. It's brilliant. I love it. And so off with the other one, and let's get this beast on, because I'm telling you, the minute you start to get it on, you're like, I feel like an astronaut. I could easily go out of space. Well, that's not what you feel like, but still. So when you pop it on, and it's kind of like this whole thing with NATO, that it takes a bit of getting used to, because either you get it too tight, you get it not tight enough, and all of these things. But once you get used to the NATO strap, ding dong, right? The NATO strap looks very, very cool. And so once you wear it, it becomes this, it just sits there as, I am absolutely meant to be here. I'm here. And this is where I need to be, and I'm gonna keep you company until we go from the moon and back again, right? But one of the things that's incredibly cool with this thing, and that is from an aesthetic perspective, is you've got a lot of things that's going on, right? We talked about the tachometer. You've got seconds, you've got date, you've got the kilohertz, you've got all of these different things. You've got dials, you've got bottoms, you've got like all of these things. There's a massive amount of things that is happening on it. Again, let me just zoom in a bit so you can see it, right? Like, but here's the thing. It's perfectly designed. And that's the thing that really, really blows my mind. Because the more time you spend looking at it, and the more you look at how much complication you have on this, and not that it's complicated, but complications in terms of things you can do and things you can get out of it. This is a piece that has been to the moon. Not this one again, but this type that's been to the moon. That you require quite a lot of things for something to go to the moon. Watches as well, right? I mean, make no mistake. This is made for performance. I mean, if you miss anything on a watch that has gone to the moon and back, write in the comment what that is. A calculator? I don't know, right? But what are you missing in a watch that has been to the moon and back? That really is the thing that you start to think about. And what I think is so strikingly amazing with this Bulova is it all seamlessly flow together. That is the thing that the minute I got these ridiculous things of it, I could see it for what it was. It is an incredibly beautiful piece. It is absolutely incredible. And the thing that they have done to perfection is the flow and the dynamics between one and the other functionalities. There is a lot of things happening on this piece. There is a lot of things that, like, really, when you see it the first time, you're like, oh my God, there is a bucket load of numbers on this. And not just telling the time, but telling whatever. But the minute you just take a deep breath and you look at it again, you kind of go like, it's just supposed to be there, man. Because it's absolutely amazing. And so what you then have is when you, again, it just looks fantastic. But then when you just tip it, this thing here, the date of mission, for me is absolutely that little cherry on top of the cake. It's just perfection. Honestly, for the amount of money that you spend on this piece, you are getting not only incredible quality, because this is craftsmanship at a maximum level. Now, you might not agree with the fact that the company is a cool company, the brand is a cool brand, and you might have your preference for, again, Patek, Rolex, whatever. But for this price level, for this amount of money, what you get is incredible. It is purely amazing. Now, you want to go ahead and find something that is not cool about the watch? I can already tell you, I hate the rim. The strap, I hate it. I would never wear it because it's not me. Having said that, everything else, it's just as it's supposed to be, in my opinion. In my opinion, there is no significant or even minor flaws with this piece. There is nothing where you shake it and it like goes beep, beep, beep. There is nothing on it where you're like, it's supposed to be cooler than that. This is an incredibly beautiful piece. It is a piece that is definitely made for performance. It is definitely something that is going to keep you, I was about to say warm at night. I don't think that it's going to do that, but it's going to keep you on time. It's going to keep you, at that level because of the technology. Now, small things that I enjoy is, again, I don't know if you can hear it, is these little sounds, these little things that, again, just shows everything is as it's supposed to be. And when everything is as it's supposed to be, and you then compare it to the price you're paying, you're like, oh, I'm getting a lot here. I am getting a lot for my money. And that's exactly what you are. You are getting tremendous amount of value for what you're paying. Now, do I think that this is going to go down in history as one of the best investments that I've ever made? Most probably not. I don't know. Is this a piece that is going to last for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years? I am pretty sure it's going to, because it's incredibly solid quality. From the strap, to the casing, to the glassing, to the mechanisms, everything through and through. It is built for performance, my friend. It is built to be active, to be used. This is something that, again, and I keep repeating myself, that was made to go to the moon. Yes, of course, you've done adjustments from the original piece. This is something that took them 40 years to basically make at a human price, if you will, right? But it's incredible solid. It is absolutely, for me, I really do think that it's absolutely incredible. Now, there is a small little thing that for me just makes everything much more cool. Let me try and see if I can show you. If you zoom in on, you see the edge, you see the dial, right? If I just move it like this, can you see it's lifted a bit, like 1 or 2 millimeters? And so, besides the fact that there can be technical, mechanical purposes for all of these different things, when you lift something slightly bit, right, it becomes multiple dimensional. So it becomes 3-dimensional. And that is one of the things that really is one of the main reasons why this just flows so well together. Design-wise, it's really thought through, because just by lifting it or adding that extra layer, it gets a hell of a lot of depth. And that really means that it looks like it's much thicker, if it makes sense, much thicker than it actually is, because it is a fairly thin watch. It is a fairly light watch as well. But when you're looking at it, it almost looks like it's caving in, not like it falling down, but caving in and becomes much deeper. And with that, it's a design trick that brings you a lot more depth in your design, right? It's one of those things that instead of looking at something only one way, you can open it and build it multiple ways. And with that, you get more perceptions coming in. More perceptions when you're looking at something like that is something that becomes incredibly aesthetically pleasing for the eye. That there is an incredibly small little trick. Now, if you still kind of don't understand what I'm talking about, let me put this to you in a different way. Go back a couple of years, okay? Go back a couple of years. When you used your mobile phone and you took a picture, you had one camera on the back side or on the front side, whichever type you had. And what you did was, it was basically a 1 or 2 dimensional picture, right? It was like you see the front and then that's it. Now, what happened over time was the innovation coming with multiple cameras on. So I use an iPhone and I've got 3 cameras plus the lighting. And what happens is that you're moving the depths from one to another, right? And so you're doing dimensions between that. And what you now are able to do is make things look much more 3-dimensional. Making it look more 3-dimensional makes it look much more real, much more authentic, right? And so that there is what you have here. Because of the dimensions and the depth of the aesthetic design here, it just gets such a wealth of depth that is just incredible. And so that for me is where they get top marks. Because as I mentioned, there is a ton of things happening to it, but none of the things, if you like I would not remove a single thing, because they all flow into each other because of how they've made the design. And that there is quite an achievement, because typically you see things that are overpopulated, where there's too much happening, right? And so when you do aesthetic design, less is much more, right? And so that is the tricky part. When you want to put all of these different things in, it has to flow naturally. If it doesn't flow naturally, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. Here, it flows brilliantly. So for me, rating this watch as an absolutely go after, it does belong in your watch collection. There's no doubt in my mind. Again, for those of you that are watching my videos, knows that there are different types of watch collections. Of course, if you have $1 million that you want to spend on a watch, you're not going to spend the price of this one here, right? You're not going to pay that or you're not going to have that because, you know, you have too much money and all of these things. However, the average collector, right, like myself, you should have one of these. It belongs in your collection because it's a bloody cool watch. It's not only cool, I would say it's borderline delicious. That's how I would say it. That's what I say. Delicious. Now, like it's there. You should have it in your collection. You should have it in your collection. It's that easy. It's part of history, right? That's it. For me, Joseph Bulova started an incredible journey with his company in 1800, end of 1800. That company is a company that has touched so much more than just a single industry, not just watchmaking, marketing, advertisement, public promotions, all of these different things. How we engage and interact with audiences and all of these different things, hugely important for so many industries today. Do I think they get enough credit for what they have done? No, and I'll be the first one to admit I have been wrong about them many of times. That there is one of the things I love by doing these videos, besides the fact that I hope this education or this story has been interesting for you. It's been educational. You enjoy hearing it. You are now excited about it as well. But for me, one of the reasons why I really, really love doing these videos is it forces me to study something I might be biased on before, okay? And it forces me to look at reality, and it forces me to look at the facts. And with the facts, it allows me to say, I was wrong. I did not know that, but how cool is that? And so, God rest his soul, Joseph Bulova. I have to admit, I was wrong about Bulova from the beginning. I'm not going to make the mistake again. I'm going to keep an open mind to whatever the company comes with in the future, because they have made incredible innovation, discovery, inventions, what have you. And I think that there's a good chance that they will continue to do that. I hope that. I keep my fingers crossed for that. I had little excitement for them. I wasn't impressed by it, to be honest. I bought it because I got recommended initially by a friend of mine. That was it. Like, hey, you should look at this one. Okay. And I couldn't be more happy. Actually, I was so happy that I actually messaged my friend when I started wearing it and say, listen, this is I'm happy that you did it. Keep it coming, because this is really, really great. And I had to go and again, like, admit that, like, hey, you're right, I was wrong. Shit happens. And that's okay. That's okay. I'm not ashamed or embarrassed about the fact that I was making mistakes with the rim as well. I mean, whatever. I do think that this is something you should have a look at. I definitely think you should have a look at it. And if you end up buying this one here, give it a bit of time, because I'm pretty sure you are not going to regret it. I personally am not regretting it. I love the fact that I have it in my collection. Love it. I love the fact that I have this date of mission kind of thing. And I feel kind of like this part of a community of like, hey, we went to the moon. I know how it sounds silly, but it's kind of like, hey, we've got something in common. Love the piece, love the company, love everything that they've done. I really, as I said, keep my fingers crossed for what's going to happen in the future. And having said that, hope you enjoyed what you've seen here. Give me some of your reactions on the comments below. Let me know what you think about Bulova, and are you a fan? Are you a foe? Right? And then again, click like, subscribe, share. Appreciate the love. Appreciate the appreciation as well. Till then, my friends. It's, as always, a pleasure making these videos for you. And I'll see you soon with something else and something incredibly cool as well. Take care, stay safe, have a nice day.
Helmet on.